Anyway, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has clarified the rationale behind the federal government's decision to allocate 712 billion naira towards the renovation of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. According to the minister, the extensive investment is essential to address the urgent need to overhaul aging infrastructure, expand the airport's operational capacity, and elevate its facilities to align with contemporary global aviation standards. He expressed confidence that the revamped Lagos Airport will significantly enhance Nigeria's competitiveness as a regional aviation hub. Joining us via Zoom for more on this development is General Secretary, Aviation Roundtable, Olumide Ohunayo. Good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Good morning.
Great. Now, a lot of controversy surrounding this development, 712 billion naira for the renovation of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. And a lot of Nigerians are wondering, what is the level of infrastructure deficit that would warrant such a huge investment from government?
Well, we've gathered here in Nigeria on social media to condemn the airport facilities around here. We have seen that we've been having the airport has also limited the growth of aviation in general. So if we agree that there's a rot in the airports, then we must also agree that there is a need to reverse that rot, and there's a need to have a modern airport, a flag airport that will represent what we want to be in future. And I think that is what we have seen now, and the reason why we're having the government embarking on this program to revamp that airport and all other facilities within the MMIA, not the terminal airport, not the terminal alone.
But you have been a major player in this sector. Could you just give us perhaps an overview of some of the things you have spoken about with perhaps the minister or players in this sector regarding the infrastructure deficit that we are speaking about for Nigerians to better understand?
Well, you've noticed in the past that, if you look at the Minister of Internal Affairs, he's been able to work on the immigration facilities, but you cannot put a new one in an old bottle. So we need to look at that airport. That airport there's been a serious degradation. There's not been from the carousel to the air conditioners to the general facilities and ambience of an international airport. We've never, if you look at all the list of airports mentioned for facility aesthetics, none of the Nigerian airports are on that list, and we cannot continue to do it the same way and expect a better result. For the airport, just close to us here in Lome, Accra, Abidjan, all have transit within the airport. We don't have any transit in our airport. So what that means is that if a passenger comes into Nigeria and he wants to go on a flight outside the country immediately on an airline, he would first have to call in pass through immigration and customs and go back again through the process with his luggage. That was not encouraged and is not developing our character. I think it's on this basis the government has looked at and said, okay, well, it's time to revamp this the airport system, starting with the flagship. And that's how today that Lagos, the MMIA and the Lagos airport generates over 60% of the revenue of fund, which is used to subsidize almost all the other airports under the management of that organization. So if you now say you want to fix it and get more revenue, well, it's not the best mathematics really, because you need to get other airports to also join in the revenue generation. But then it's not a bad idea to make the revenue generator better.
See, renovating the airport to me is not the controversy. The controversy is the amount of money that is going to be spent in that renovation, and that's what Nigerians are not too happy about. Some have described it as the most expensive airport renovation in the world. So I'm wondering, why is the government picking the bill? Why not explore other avenues like PPP, like BOT, and so on?
Well, I did not agree that that's the most expensive airport in the world, and renovation in the world. We've seen the ones renovation has gone for about $1 billion. We've seen going for 800 million, and this was for about $457 million. But the problem, the challenge here, which was on the government part, was that there was no prior information and open bidding to see what was going to be done. The scope of work, the benefits, all these were not made public until after the approval, and now they're running to defend what will have done before, what will have been done before going get the approval. And I think that's why, and it's right for the protest you're getting from Nigeria, it's expected, and the other reason to answer respond to the public by proving and showing why they have to go ahead and get that approval. Because I thought all they are doing now should have been done before getting the approval. But it's a good project. It's a project which supports it helps the industry and grow aviation. There's no growth and aviation without an airport. And if you want to improve your international participation, if you want your own airline to build a hub, then you need that airport of importance, an airport that has the transit that can help them build that up, and that's what we should target. The airlines will not come for that airport. We need to work on the airports, and I think I support this.
All right, so
it's a clear departure from the process of arriving at this. That's another kettle of fish anyway.
All right, so I think most Nigerians also are happy about the idea that the airport will be renovated, but their concern is the amount. We're looking at 712 billion naira. Nigerians are asking, where is this money coming from? And also another big question is that we're hoping it's not going to be like one of those corrupt projects that we see. This money is taken at the end of the day, it's nothing to write home about. You see the airport, you see the facilities, it's not worth the money that has been taken. How are we sure that this is going to be one of those projects that we will see that this is the amount taken and this is what has been done in terms of accountability?
Well, the truth is that if we have institutions who are supposed to be up and doing in their checks and balancing and works, then we shouldn't be having this conversation. But because we are in a country whereby there's virtually no consequences for bad behavior, this will ensure that the Nigerians and citizens are not trusting a figure, especially when in a period whereby we are going towards the election, everybody is campaigning, and then at that period, these huge contracts are coming out. Yes, you should expect something like that, but I expect that that's the responsible organizations within the Nigerian government do their job by putting all the things that need to be put in place to ensure that there's fairness and we get value for money. For me, value for money here is not just changing the aesthetics of that airport or just tearing it down. I want to see this is my problem. I want to see how much jobs are we expecting from this project? How many workers will be on this project? What's the number of passengers we're expecting that this new revamped airport it will have in future? What are they having now? These are the information that have come along before this pushing for the approval. But now that they push for the approval, they need to get Nigerians. They must carry Nigerians by providing necessary information to show the impact of this project to Nigerians, its importance, and what happens in the future. That is necessary, and I think it's because the cat went before the horse, and that's why you're getting this hostile response from Nigerian media. Social media and Nigerians in general.
Yeah, as my colleague Toma, rightly said right from the beginning, it's not renovation of this airport is not the problem, but how we go about it. I've been to different international airports, and I see that Nigeria's airport is not as busy or as connecting as every other international network. Airport. Case in point, if you look at the second Niger bridge, there were issues before it got completed. Ajaokuta Steel Revival, much more like White Elephant project. Previous airport remodeling efforts, especially when you talk about the one that happened in 18 weeks of that of 2018, the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja's 2018 runway repair that cost over 5 billion naira. It was such a colossal amount that it sent tongues wagging. What are the red flags, for this, remodeling efforts for this MMIA? How do we ensure that we guard against a deja vu that we've experienced in recent past?
Yeah, your point is quite genuine. Outside the last week, you remember Enugu Airport itself? That's about the second or third time it's being closed down because of the poor runway, and it has to be repaired about I think it's about the third time in about 3 years, and that does not show that a good job was done from the beginning. Again, I must tell you that. For me, we objected to the government going ahead to build a second runway in Abuja. That's runway as it's costing. It's going to cost us some billions of naira. And we said, look, the capacity that you have on that runway right now can still be managed. All we just need is to get critical evacuation equipment that would make the runway available in case we have an accident or an incident, rather than embark on building the second runway, because the traffic on that runway right now is still has not gotten to above its average capacity. So I think and that was criticized. But for this, they've gone ahead. They've capitalized on the industry's. The industry's not feeling comfortable with the state of our airport, and this has been supported. There's a need to revamp and have a good international airport. And like you noticed, we have not met with what the work is. What happens now is I am looking at is the post construction. I'm looking at. It's very easy to say 22 months. And yes, I know there's an election coming up in the next 22 months, and we're eager to deliver this project before the elections. Yes, you're going to deliver it. What I want, I just don't want a glossary look or like changing of mistakes alone. How would we now get value for money? And the only way we can get value for money is to begin to prepare for the post-construction era. Will this airport and terminal and other airports remain as it is under the fund management? Are we going to concession these airports to private organizations, or are we going to have a public-private partnership whereby the government will remain the owners of the airport, while reputable international airport management companies are called in to come and take over the management of the system? Because airport is not about terminal alone. It has a lot to do with it has a lot of avians going around that aviation ecosystem. So I think these are the options before us, and those are the options that we need to critically address before the end of the 22 months.
Right, and that is where my question actually lies. Post-renovation era, how Nigeria can position itself as that competitor, because we have Abidjan, we have Accra that we need to compete with. Can Nigeria position herself as that hub, that aviation hub that will attract international investors and all sorts of airlines internationally? Will it help us renew our relationship, our strained relationship with other airlines that have left, international airlines that have left the country, such that at the end of the day we can have value for money?
Oh, yes, I can tell you that is possible, because as of today, all the carriers, 85 to 90% of the passengers carried are Nigerians, the foreign airlines. Again, our flag carriers and other domestic carriers who are on the international routes have been clamoring for a transit facility at our international airport to help them carry passengers point beyond Nigeria. Now, if you're able to produce this transit, if you're able to have this transit at the airport and in this new airport, you are sure that you're going to increase the frequencies and flight of Nigerian airlines. And with that, you are sure that you'll be able to attract. We already have the market. We have the people that want to travel. We have the economy. We have the sites. So what we just need is put the structures in place, put the institutions for checks and balances, and then, well, the investors will come. And I think they're all waiting. They're waiting. I can tell you, if we are done with this airport, if we are done with this revamping of this MMIA and revamping of the airport system itself, then you can be sure that the airlines would follow in development and in expansion. And as they follow, then we also are the alternatives and options open to passengers, and that also gives passengers more options to fly and fly at a cheaper rate and increase the number of travelers. And when travelers increases and you are able to address all the tax and other issues that are hindering the travelers, everybody smiles. Everybody in the ecosystem, from the government to the revenue part, everybody will smile. And as of today, it's shocking that we are paying $100 to fund on international routes outside Nigeria, and you're also paying $100 to Accra, you're paying $100 to Lome, and you can see how it has affected the traffic and number of airlines on that route.
Okay, you just mentioned the systems. I was saying, please don't talk about systems, because that's what I want to ask you, because renovating the airport and making the airport look beautiful, and the systems in the airport are still the way they were before the renovation. It's like putting old wine in new skin. All right. This renovation plan, does it include building better systems for the airport? I'll give you an example, sir. You want to travel out, you will be accosted at least 15 places before you get to your flight, and that is really embarrassing. Are we putting plans together to reduce all those things?
No, I think that has been greatly improved upon. You will not get up to 15. But there's some minor breaches, embarrassing searches at the airport, the good morning, sirs, how are your family greetings, all those things are also there. And like I said before, that I'm looking at total revamping of the airport system now, not just MMIA. This is a process that is starting with this renovation. But before the end of that 22 months, I expect that the government will come with a clear-cut plan of what happens, because as of today, I am not happy with the structure and the methodology used in the managing fund. Not because they don't have the president is a very good lady, working very perfectly. But again, once you're in the system and the system has its clogs, and you expect that the wheel will not really move fast, and that's why I said we must begin to plan what we want to do. We can't spend all this money and say, "Come, Mr. A, come and collect the airport, and I'm giving it to you." That would definitely be wrong. But we have the options of either looking at a PPP, whereby the government still own this facility, but get reputable. I'm not talking about organization that will go tomorrow morning and go and start with the CAC, use its connection in government and come say and says it's a airport money company. That's what I'm talking about. Reputable international companies and open process whereby the bidding will be seen by everyone. The president, what has happened today, why you are seeing this criticism, nobody knew what the scope of work, nobody saw the advert, nobody saw who wanted to apply with, and all of them. That's we had this a Chinese company has won the bid. And that's why you're seeing the criticism all over the social media and people not believing in the process. But we need a revamped airport. That is non-negotiable. We need a revamped airport. And if this airport is one that is generating over 60% of the revenue of fund, then I support whatever method is needed to put this in a place to revamp it and ensure that we have a good and flagship airport for the country.
Yeah, but in terms of systems, just like my colleague was saying, maybe not 15, but 10. I don't think that it has reduced, because I'm a frequent flyer, and every time you fly, you definitely get that. So let me just put it at a 9 or 10. I don't think it has totally reduced, because every time I fly, I still get that, "Madam, give me something. Where are you coming from?" Different questions like that. So I think that this is something that needs to also be checked as well. But moving from that, how long is this renovation going to take? How is it going to affect travelers? Nigerians want to know, like, is it going to obstruct the movements of Nigerians that are going in and out? How are they going to play it out?
Yeah, definitely there'll be some obstructions. It will not be as smooth as it was in there before the reconstruction. But they will just have to plead with the travelers to understand and also manage it very well. We've had this situation before at the Port Harcourt airport, whereby at the end of the day, that airport was labeled the worst international airport in the world because they could not manage the construction process and the traveling public, and we got that ugly title. Again, if you remember that immediately the minister came on board, the first thing he did was to give a 1-month ultimatum for all operators to leave the MMIA for the new terminal. And you remember the bedlam, where passengers were beaten in the rain, they were queuing outside, and after about a week or two, he had to backtrack, seeing the pains of the agony of both the airlines and passengers. I think they have learned their lessons with those 2 incidences, and necessary plans are in place. And like they say, the necessary plans are in place for that not to happen again. And I think they must ensure that passengers do not go through harder experience to get aboard their flights.
Well, so one thing I also want us to pay attention to is the national carrier. There was this thing that happened recently, much more like a scam, but we know there is British Airways, maybe not necessarily owned by the British, but we have the Ethiopian Airlines, and etc. When are we going to have our own national carrier? That's one. And the second one is, will this renovation fix our toilets? Because we've seen on social media how dirty these toilets are, you know, the ramps, the broken conveyor belts, lack of air conditioning system. Although Muhammad Buhari actually tried with the MMIA, you know, especially the departure wing, where you see that it's so chilly. But would you think, first is our national carrier, and the second is, how do we start? Are we starting from the basics to the general?
Well, I like the list, and you've not ended with it there. You still have the cables, the AC system, the road leading towards the airport itself, the people that hang around the airport premises, the troubled experience of passengers carrying their luggage from the terminal to the car park. All these are what they are supposed to be addressed by this renovation. You know, because they're putting sidewalk now to link the car parks with the two terminals. The smaller terminal is going to be expanded. You know, and then expanded so the bigger aircraft can come in, and those are the work on it. But coming to the national carrier, I said something about a system whereby there's no consequence for bad behavior. And today we are back into the issue of national carrier. The present government said they are not interested in having a national carrier, that they would rather work with the airlines operating presently. That's a point that we've seen. And we've seen the expansion of airpeace operating from Lagos to Gatwick, and they're starting Abuja to Heathrow very, very soon. So I expect that we should have maybe one or two flag carriers, because if you look at that London route today, we are supposed to have 2 airlines there. That's what we have in the bilaterals. We have only one airline. We're supposed to have 2 airlines there, and we're supposed to have 21 slots a week. Sorry. So as of today, we have not used that 21 slots. So it shows we are still not having enough capacity on international routes by Nigerian operators. And I expect that with this airport development and the ability to attract investors by providing the enabling environment, the stability. When I mean stability, I mean looking at the currency, the economy, because aviation is not in isolation. It's part of the economy. So it's a reflection of what you have in the economy. So if we can stabilize the economy, if we can give the protection and confidence to the investors that yes, the system is right, and there are checks and balances in the system, and the institutions that protect your investment, then we now begin to you will see that rather than wait for the government to have a national carrier, that carrier will evolve naturally from within the Nigerian system, and we will call it a national carrier.
Interesting. I still want to take you back to the systems you mentioned earlier about the fact that beyond the renovation, we need to have a system that will ensure sustainability at the end of the day, and that we can have a thriving aviation sector. And I am wondering if a PPP, like you have mentioned, or getting a management from outside the country is what you think would help our aviation sector moving forward. And another question is the fact that is Nigeria and Nigerians ready for this renovation, having a biometric immigration system, self-check in kiosks and all of that? Are we ready to have all of that input in the system when we are looking at those renovations? Are we ready for all of that?
Can I take that question again?
The first question I mentioned was the system that you were talking about earlier, talking about the PPP. If that is what we'll adopt, do you think that is what will work for us in such a way that at the end of the day we have a thriving aviation sector after the renovation is done? And then the second question is that are we ready for improvements around the airport systems?
Let me start with the second one. Are we ready for improvements around the airport system? Then it links back to the first question. It has to do with the management and the management of the system itself. Like I said, you cannot have 22 airports and you have only 1 or 2 that are viable, and you think and say the system should continue the way it is. No, I am not a believer of such a system. I also believe that yes, we can tweak My vision for FAN is I want to see it as an airport management company, not an authority that would be under the influence of the minister, and appointments of management will come from the government. That's not the vision I want to see for FAN. Because if we actually want that organization to be an airport company, it's supposed to be like the South African counterpart, whereby it invests in its own airport and invests in neighboring airports and other airports outside South Africa. Then we must change the structure, the act, from being government owned and managed by government, but to a company that's ready to generate money, generate funds for profits and manage itself. Today, if you look at one of the top 10 organizations that are taking revenue from to the government treasury, FAN is part of it. But then for the users of the airport, for those who are within the system, we are not seeing the same revenue in the facility and management. So that's what we're saying. Look, yes, we are going ahead with building a good airport, starting with the one that generates most of the money. But there's a need to address the other airports, because you cannot continue to put all the airports responsibility under one airport. There's a need for other airports to meet up somewhere along the line. And in doing that, you need total revamping of the structure. And in doing that, my position is, I'm not a fan of concessioning the fund itself, but I'm looking at having a government, a PPP, whereby the government still own all these facilities. Why international representative organizations are brought in to manage for a period of time, not forever. In that period, they'll be able to put in new structures, management principles that would not work on. Today, it's no matter how principled you are, as Nigerians, there's always that imamadu. The letter will come from the minister, the letter will come from the senator, the letter will come from the presidency. So whatever good policy you have is reversed by the powers that be. We need something to reform that process, put a proper structure in place, and then continue from there. But if we just say we want to continue with the same present system, we might probably go back to the same building after 22 months, maybe in the next 10 years, and go back to where we were before today.
What you're saying is quite clear and simple. I mean, hotels have done very well in that stead. However, before we let you go, sir, 22 months of renovation, isn't that too much?
What is the time?
Yeah, 22 months. That's what they are looking at.
The timeline.
Well, it's not too much. And you see, for airports all over the world, renovation is a continuous project. It's never finished. Right. Because as you begin to build the airport, you have a lot of land space for expansion. And when the time for expansion comes, you do it. When there's time for renovation, which are always timely and methodological, you do it. But unfortunately, what we have, that if you look at most of the states, once they get maybe 10 acres for the airport, immediately they start building the biggest terminal, start building the biggest runway, and at the end of the airport, they cannot manage it, and they've turned them all over and then return them to government to FAN. So what people do, what is done in other clients? You have the land for the airport, and you begin to build and expand as the passengers' activities and other operations grow. But I think we should expect that even when they finish in 2 months, there will still be reason to make some repairs and some maintenance. It's enough, because what you use 24 hours on the day on a daily basis must also be maintained to retain and sustain the facility. So that would continue. What we just pray for is the management of this property, right, after it has been completed, and see how we can ensure that the money invested, as much as it is not wasted. And again, let the public know that the 700 billion is not for the terminal alone. There are a lot of work outside the terminal, including safety, security, and the expansion of the other second terminal. That's part of this project, and not just of the MMIA that are tearing down.
Thank you for that clarification. Olumide Ohunayo, General Secretary, Aviation Roundtable. Thank you for your time. Great. Well, still ahead on the program, how can Nigeria and Taiwan strengthen their bilateral relationship for mutual benefit? Join us after the break to find out more.